You know you've been cracking on when your work area starts to look like that. So, in the spirit of trying to follow through with my previous videos and saying I would try and do an update on this and at least attempt to document it as it's being constructed rather than just putting a video of it finished. I'm calling it an evening. It's just gone 9 again. It's a good time to stop. So I've had a couple of hours at it today. Still annoyingly waiting on a few bits to turn up. That's not the volume pot I'm going to end up using. This was just one I pulled off of something just so I had something physical to put there for just measuring up and just making sure it all fitted correctly. So I fitted today the 2 phono plugs and the power LED indicator. I'm at the board. I just realised I said I was going to go with hex heads and I haven't used hex ones. Maybe I couldn't find them. Who knows? Maybe I didn't think about it. I'm not taking these out now. They're staying there. Quite like the look of that actually. So I've mounted the boards. So I've come with these little standoffs there and there. So I've been just doing a bit of wiring slowly. So I've wired up the 2 inputs. They push onto the board on these 2-pin 2.54mm Molex connectors. When I designed the board, I made it so rather than having to come down from the inputs to the volume pot and then from the volume pot to the board itself actually has the routing for free wire output straight to the pot. It also has a provision on the board to put a header in there to bypass it if you want. It's actually slightly wrong on the board. That should be a 3-pin header, really thinking about it. So you put it in one position and it sends the signal through to the pot and then comes back from the pot to the board, and you put it in another position and it just goes to the board. That way, the way it is now, if you put bypass on, if you turn the pot down, because the center leg from the pot still goes across, you'd be shorting the signal to 0V if you try to use the bypass with a pot installed. It's just for the sake of completeness. It's just so yeah, when I revise the board, that will be a 3-pin header that you move its position across from. And obviously I've sort out some of the other slight errors I made. Mounted the bridge rectifier and just soldered the cap in place. It's sticking down yet. Put a little fuse in for the DC side. Put the main fuse in. Went with the weird one. Someone commented on my previous video saying about that was designed so you could take it out without removing the wires, and I wasn't really sure what he meant, but I think I understand now. If this is, say this is like a all-in-one board and this is like on a DC bus or something, if it's all point-to-point soldered in rather than any connectors, if you need to take that board out with this arrangement, you don't need to take the wires off. You can just undo the nut and it'll go out inside. Whereas if you've got the external mounting ones, the only way to take that board out would be to unsolder the wires. So yeah, maybe that is what it was for. I've never come across it before, but that does make sense, I guess. So got the power con in place. You see I've not done any mains wiring yet. I've got the speaker terminals in place. They're these kind where you can either, let's get a good shot, shall we? You can either put a wire in them and crimp it, or if you take the, I think that's possibly a little bit, it looks a bit small for a banana cake to go straight in. But yeah, it's got the end, so you can put the banana plugs in. Should fit through that, you'd imagine, but they're not the best quality ones in the world, but they're like, considering what power output's going to be through this and what those are. So they're isolated from the chassis. That goes through a like a nylon or something. Insulating bush actually fits through the chassis. So yeah, power switch hasn't turned up yet. So like I said, it's just going to be in the back switch. It's not the end of the world. I can turn it on and off at the plug socket. You know, I mean, it really doesn't matter if I don't end up putting one in if it hasn't turned up by tomorrow. This pot will actually work. It's just scavenged off a piece of equipment, and the only reason I say it's not the pot that's going to be in here is because I'd cut the little piece of equipment I had it in. I'd cut the little lug off, so it hasn't got its locating lug and it holds it still. Now, at the end of the day, that will probably last forever and not be an issue, but I like to have that little lug so it can't spin. It's like the fuse holders. They have like two little wings on them. I find if you drill the hole and get a hacksaw blade, a junior hacksaw, put it through and just a little cut that way, a little cut that way, it's perfect for those two little lugs to locate into. And then the fuse holder, rather than having to do it up murder tight so the fuse holder doesn't spin when you're trying to undo a fuse, it actually holds it still. If connection is going to be to one of the transformer lugs, I think what I should do is, well, although there are 4 screws going into the thread, because this body is painted, what I should do is, well, I should drill a small hole on here somewhere. I'm not going to solder this, actually. If it's steel, I'm not going to solder straight to it. It's not as good a connection as actually having a physical screwed on earth, though. But either way, a piece of wire going from the earth to this top piece, so just as a second safety bond. So if anything does become live on this top piece, it's not isolated from the mains earth. Yeah, you'd see that on like pieces of industrial equipment. They always have a second safety bond earth between any pieces that screw together. So. But yeah, that's what it's looking like so far. You see there's plenty of space in here. Transformers kept nicely away from the boards. It's going to radiate some magnetic flux out. Hopefully it's not going to be an issue. Hey, steady. If it is, then I'll have to put a toroidal or something in here, because they generally radiate a bit less flux. So I could probably fit this little one in if it really comes to it. If this one will go in there, and then I'll have to put a little regulator board and something in here to drop the voltage down, because that's too high a voltage. We'll see how we get on. I probably won't, I'm not even going to bother connecting both secondaries up. There's just no need to. It's not even going to draw the 10 VA from one secondary, so that can just sit there doing nothing. Well, I might connect it just for the sake of completeness. Of course, the other option would be to put these two in series and put my little regulator in here, because I do have a little regulator board that will fit in there quite nicely. That's also an option. I could have 18 volt DC supply, and then going into a regulator, and then going off to the 2 boards just for extra smooth and quiet DC. Not that these boards need it, these seem quite happy on just straight fed DC. I might just do that, actually, thinking about it. I've got the room for it, I've got the board, might as well shove it in there, haven't I? But yeah, anyway, that's just where I am for today. So hopefully my stuff turns up tomorrow. Been having some fun with the post office at the minute. They do this annoying thing now where if you miss a delivery, they instantly try and deliver it the next day. And even if you go online and say you don't want them to deliver it the next day, you want to pick it up from a post office or something, they will still attempt to deliver it. It turns out it's thanks to Royal Mail just messing their staff about, and all of a sudden the delivery offices that used to be open all day are now open for 2 hours in the morning. I've talked to members of staff. Well, sorry, I haven't. A friend earlier on was telling me he's talked to members of staff who were literally told one day, come in on a Monday morning, you don't work 8 till 5 anymore, you now work 8 till 10. And they literally get 2 hours in the morning and that's it. So you can understand why no one's actually checking all the paperwork and scanning everything in and out of the vans. They've got a 2 hour rush and just get it done. That'll be what that redelivery thing's about. It'll just be, it won't be for our benefit. It will be because it then means they don't have to try and organise deliveries that day. It's just a case of if you didn't deliver it, leave it in the van, it gets delivered again tomorrow. It saves time unloading and loading vans and stuff up, doesn't it? Processing actual documentation. Royal Mail just can't stop being that C word. But you know, I always said this, most companies, if you got rid of the managers, it would run a lot better. They don't bring anywhere near the value to the company of what their wages are. Just get rid of them. You know, you hear this argument, oh, if we didn't pay them these silly fees, we wouldn't be able to attract them to work in the company. And I'm like, good, because the company would definitely run a lot better if they weren't there. It's just become a bit of a boys' club, hasn't it? So anyway, I'm going to go off on a tangent. I do like to rant. Things like that wind me up, and you should get wound up by stuff like that. That's why a lot of things have gotten to the state they've gotten in, because we've all been turning a blind eye for too long and just letting it happen. We need to stand up and stop it, but let's not get political. This isn't a political channel. This is a channel about a bloke who likes to fix and build electronic stuff. Let's stay there, shall we? So anyway, yeah, so that's today's progress. Like I said, hopefully finish it tomorrow. Also, hopefully, after the phone call I made today, my box of 50 EL84 valves that I've been waiting for a couple of weeks should be able for collection. So we shall see. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay crunchy.